Ryan, can you give us a sound check?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. That's good. We can hear you. Excellent.
Perfect.
Are you going to have your camera on tonight or no?
No.
Okay, good evening and welcome to our actually first meeting of June, which is really hard to understand that we're halfway through the year already. So before we get started this evening, I would ask council and our guests that are in attendance, we'll take a moment of reflection. Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. First item is the confirmation of the agenda as it came out on the weekend. And the recommendation is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth accepts the agenda as presented. We have a mover and seconder for that. Moved by Councillor O'Donnell, seconded by Councillor Rose. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? I don't see any hands going up, but if you find that we're treading in hot water as the night goes on, you can declare it at that time. So we have a number of items on the consent agenda here. 12 to be matter of fact. Is there anything there that anybody would like a little more clarification on or would like it pulled and dealt with separately? Deputy Mayor Tinkowski?
Thanks, Your Worship. I'd like to pull 4.6. Sally McMullen, Perth County Planner, Manager of Planning Services, the draft response from the county with regard to Bill 97 as proposed by the province and the draft provincial planning statement proposed April 6, 2023 by the province.
Okay. And somewhere in our agenda, we had a report, and I believe it was from Huron County, or South Huron, yes, and it was almost identical in that report. Yeah, the one above it, 4.5. We don't necessarily have to pull it, but you probably want to do a bit of an explanation on that one, Dean, do you?
Well, it wasn't so much of an explanation, maybe a brief explanation, but just to advise West Perth Council that the deadline for comments received by the province has been changed to August the 4th. And so subsequently the county, at our last county council meeting, we've agreed to hold this response by the county over until our July meeting, which means that West Perth Council, I wanted to invite fellow councillors to weigh in and offer their comments so that we could take that back to the county before the county adopts its final position and makes its final submission to the province.
Okay. Anything further you want to add on that?
No, I think the county was in this draft, we're fairly adamant that the idea of separated lots outside of separated lots on the farm property, the county's definitely opposed to that idea. The idea of additional residential units on the existing farmstead, the county supports that, but the idea of creating separate lots over and above the original farmstead lot on a farm property, the county is not in favor.
And it's my understanding that the province has pulled that now.
They've
indicated
that in the provincial legislature, the premier indicated that it would be reviewed, and they were awaiting further discussion and comments from the stakeholders before making the changes, but that's kind of where it's at right now.
Okay, good. Okay, having said that, can we leave it in under the consent then and carry on, or would you like it still pulled out?
I guess if there's, I wanted to find out I wanted to pull it to see if there was comments from the counselors now. And if not tonight, then we have another council meeting later in the month where people have had time to think about it. They can come back and bring their comments to this council table with the intent of forwarding through to county council in July.
Okay, good. Okay, well, let's just throw it out there. Is there any questions or comments with regards to that report? Murray?
Excuse me, I guess it was just a bit of a question for clarity. This, what Dean was speaking of is if we do say something like a severance of a farmhouse property, the house, that they could maybe put 2 houses up. Is that kind of what they were asking us? If it was okay?
Do you want to answer that, Dean? Or we have
Well-
some planners here
well-
tonight that I'm sure can weigh in on it as well.
Well, either Susanna or John, if you want to reply to that, go ahead.
Hello, good evening. So the province has issued a new provincial policy statement and it's available for comment. The commenting day was, the end of the comment period was going to be June 6th. However, that's been extended into August, so August 4th maybe. And one of the changes to the draft 2023 provincial policy statement, which would replace the 2020 provincial policy statement, is the permission for 3 non-farm rural residential lots from farms. And there have been a number of farm groups and municipalities in conversation with the provincial government regarding this particular policy. There are many other policies that are outlined in the report from the manager of planning. Changes to the 2023 provincial policy statement from the 2020 provincial policy statement, and with regards to the specific policy, as the mayor has said, and as the deputy mayor as they have been discussing, we have heard through the media that that policy is proposed to be removed with regards to creating 3 non-farm residential lots from each farm. That the permission for that. Is that clear? That might not be exactly clear, but feel free to ask me any questions.
I think to specifically address the questions, the comments are for all the changes taking place. And what Deputy Mayor Trzynczowski has pointed out is that the county has taken a particular interest in this one specific policy that Blair Reed has spoke to on more houses. And in an effort to protect farmland, the county's not in favor of it. So that's just one of the whole pie. That's what's happening.
Okay, is that good? Any other questions when we've got Susanna up here? Okay, Councillor Fournier, you had your hand up, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Dean beat me to it on the county policy, but also what is it? Item 4.3, the resolution regarding response to the opioid crisis. They're asking for letters of support, advocating for additional resources to help out with the problems that they're having. And I don't know how many of the rest of you are aware, but some of our small towns in Ontario have lost a significant chunk of the last 2 generations to drugs just ripping our friends and neighbors away from us. I don't know how many of you have seen that in your own lives, but it's dozens and dozens of people that I've known. Anyway, but this one in particular, if they need help, well, by all means, because you could be talking about something that will either kill or destroy 50% of the generation if you let it go. So as much help as they can possibly get. If we could do up a letter of support, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so I'm just going to touch base with Dean again. Is it okay to leave 4.6 in there?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so what we'll do is we'll pull out 4.3 and Andrew has kind of talked to us about that. And I'm guessing that you would like to move that. So it's moved by Councillor Fournier that we support the resolution from the town of Fort Francis with the response to the opioid crisis. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Foster?
I have my hand up there as well.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Sorry, just the hand icon there, Mayor McKenzie.
Okay, good enough, Ryan. Any further discussion or questions with regards to supporting that? Okay, all those in favor of supporting that motion? Then that is carried. So we will do the consent agenda. We'll do 4.1, 4.2, and then 4.4 to 4.12. And a motion that we, where are we gonna get it here? The motion that we accept the consent agenda items for information and the minutes of the May 15th, 2023 regular meeting be adopted. So we have a mover for that, Councillor Rose, Councillor Phelps. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Okay. Now, next item on the agenda then is a public meeting. So this time at 7:14, we'll call the public meeting to order. And I will ask Clerk Hobson for the purpose of this public meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this public meeting is to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments about a proposed amendment to bylaw 100-1998, the zoning bylaw. If any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision made by council, they are to provide their name, mailing address, and email to clerk@westperth.com tonight.
Right, and this is a public meeting, as Dan has indicated, for a zoning bylaw amendment application initiated by Lisa and Nevin Dow. The proposed amendment affects the property described as Part Lot 5, Concession 6, 5178, Line 26, Fullerton Ward in the municipality of West Perth. And I will ask the clerk to confirm how notices were sent out.
I can confirm notice was given by mail to all landowners within 120 meters of the lands affected by the proposed amendment and to those agencies prescribed by legislation. A sign advertising tonight's meeting was also posted on the property on May 16th, 2023.
Okay, thanks, Dan. So at this time, I'll call upon Susanna Reed, planner for the county of Perth, to review the application and present any correspondence received. So Susanna, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. This is a zoning bylaw amendment. The owners of the property are Morris and Michelle Willows, and Lisa Dow is the applicant. And you can see the location of the red star on the screen. That's the location of the property, just on the east edge of Carlingford. Let's go to the next slide. So this is an air photo. Council will be familiar with this air photo you saw in December. Is the consent application. So there was an original lot created by consent for the development of a single detached residence that's being built by the Dows, and the severance was from the Willows Farm. So the red line outlines the farm parcel, and the blue line outlines the original lot that was created by consent. And subsequently, there was an application to enlarge the residential lot, and that enlargement was the file that you saw in December. That was file B16 of 2022. So now the consent, the applicants are working on clearing the consent conditions for the lot enlargement. And together, the original lot and the lot enlargement are about 0.6 of an acre, 2,400 square meters. So if we go to the next slide, this is the zoning bylaw map. So both the original lot created by consent, which is zone HVR-21, to Hamlet Village Residential Zone Special. And the lot enlargement, which it has an A agricultural special zone on it, A-57, are proposed to be amended. The HVR special zone currently has a provision that recognizes an undersized lot with 1,800 square meters, and it will now conform with the zoning bylaw lot area requirement. The A-57 was part of the Willows Farm and is now being enlarged to added to the residential lot, so it will change to an HVR special zone. And the applicant, the Lisa Nevin Dow, have requested a special zone to permit a shed with a height of 7 meters, where the usual requirement for a shed is 4.5 meters in the West Perth zoning bylaw. So if we go to the next slide, there are a few, sorry, before we go to the photos, please go to the next slide. So this is the sketch that has been provided by the applicants. The house is at the front. You can see it fronts line 26, which is at the bottom of the page. And then there is the outline of the house, and then behind that, the septic system, and then at the top of the slide, there is the shed. So the shed is proposed to be located at the back of the property. And in our review, given the location of the shed at the rear of the lot and the rural nature of Carlingford being a small hamlet in the West Perth settlement area hierarchy, the planning department is supportive of the rezoning application. This meeting, of course, is being held for public comments. So if there are any comments from the public, they can be received now. And the planning department is recommending that the application be approved. There are a few photos of the property last November-ish. So this is what it would look like at that time. The house has now been built. There are 3. And that is looking west in Carlingford, standing on the road in front of the house. And looking east. Thanks, Anna.
Okay, thank you, Susanna. I guess at this time, we will hear any additional comments from the applicant or agent. I don't see either one here at this particular time. Is there anybody present that wishes to speak in support of this application? No, I don't see anybody's hands going up, waving frantically. Anybody opposed to this application? Anybody with any general comments and any questions from council with regards to this application? Okay, very good. All right, thank you, Susanna. I would like to thank those in attendance for their comments. Should council proceed with the adoption of the zoning bylaw amendment, the notice of passing will be provided as prescribed by the Planning Act and a 20-day appeal period to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The bylaw is on the agenda for later on tonight, so that Council of West Perth will maybe follow up with an approval for the zoning bylaw amendment 0623 submitted by Lisa and Nevin Dow on behalf of Morris and Michelle Willows for the lands described as Part Lot 5, Concession 6 of the Fullerton Ward. So if there's nothing further to deal with this application, I would move that we go back into our regular council meeting. And the next item then is 6.1 or 6.11, which is the zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0323. And I believe John Weiss is going to walk us through this particular one.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie and Council. So Council will remember 2 weeks ago, this zoning bylaw amendment came for public meeting, and that's for ZBA 03-23. And prior to that, it was received for a consent application, BO 8-23. It's for the property located at 6476 Perth Line 44 in the Logan Ward of West Perth, in between Bornholm and Broadhagen on Perth Line 3. So again, the zoning bylaw amendment is a condition of consent, BO 823. The consent, which was conditionally approved on April 17th, produced a severed lot with frontage of 44 meters on Perth line 44. That's at the bottom of the page there. And then a lot area was approximately 1.2 acres or 0.49 hectares. And that is for the residential severed lot. The retained farm lot has a frontage of approximately 363 meters. And again, on Perth line 44. And it has a lot area of approximately 102 acres. So the area outlined in yellow is the severed portion to be rezoned from the agricultural zone to the A1 zone. And this is to allow a non-farm residential dwelling. And then the area outlined in red is the retained farm lot to be rezoned from the agricultural zone to an A3 zone. And that's essentially to ensure that no residential development happens. This photo was taken on March 29th, and it is of the dwelling. Public notice was given with Planning Act regulations on April 24th. Public meeting was held, like I had mentioned, on May 15th, and no comments were received from the public. The UTRCA did comment on this one with no objections. So as such, staff recommend approval of the zoning bylaw amendment. I can take any questions. Thanks.
Okay, any questions for John on this particular application? Okay, I don't see anything, so we do have a recommendation here. And the recommendation is that West Perth Council approves zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0323, affecting the lands described as Lot 22, Concession 9 of the Logan Ward, Municipality of West Perth. We have a mover and seconder for that, please. Moved by Councillor Jessel, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Okay, thanks, John. All right, moving on with our agenda. I don't believe we have anything from the chief building official or the fire chief. Next report is our head librarian and the library board meeting dated April the 25th. So Rosemary, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. The library board met on April 25th and again on May 23rd. I believe you have the minutes in front of you as well as the monthly statistics reports that the board members received. I'll start with the April 25th meeting. The library board reviewed and updated several policies. Those updated policies are now on the library's website for public access. The library is very happy to continue with free community passes, and we can now include PC Connect bus passes to that collection. So we're really pleased to have established that partnership with the county. And finally, we also have a partnership now with the Ontario Poetry Society, and we will be hosting them on June 17th. I'm happy to take any questions about that meeting.
Any questions for Rosemary? Natalie? Okay, there you are. I don't see any hand
All
up.
right.
Ryan, have you got your hand up?
No, I'm good.
Okay, very good. Okay, moving on.
Moving on to the May 23rd meeting. The main takeaway here is that not only does the library submit provincial statistics to the ministry, and those would be very similar to the statistics that you receive from us, only in much greater detail. But we also now submit our tech-related information and statistics to what is called the Bridge Toolkit. And this is a provincial database that is open to public libraries in Ontario. And it's meant to take tech-related information and assess the need and the impact of technology-related programs and services in each community. So we are very happy now to be adding information from West Perth to this provincial database. And I'm happy to take any questions on the May 23rd meeting.
Okay, any questions, on this one? Okay, so the recommendation here, and what I've done is I've lumped the two meetings together, if that's okay. So that the Council for the Municipality of West Perth receives the library board meeting April the 25th and May the 23rd, 2023 information report. We have a mover and seconder for that, Councillor Harold and Councillor Phelps. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I have nothing here from the operations manager nor the recreation facilities manager. So the next item is a report from the treasurer on tangible capital asset policy update. So Wendy, I'll let you take it away.
Hi there, I'm just gonna raise the desk.
Yeah,
Maybe. Oh, well, I'll be like this. So this report is basically an update to our TCA policy or tangible capital asset policy. It's not a final, it's open for comment. Some items to highlight that we changed in the policy is bringing it into our standard format. So it's just our policy look. So it looks like our updated ones. And then we pulled out the estimated useful life and the thresholds. We thought it was better in a procedure, just because they're changing and we're still working on things, and we'd always have to bring the policy back. So pulling it out of the policy and developing it in a procedure will separate those. And maybe once we're done the review, we'll put it back in the policy. And then the other item we added was roles and responsibilities, just for clarity, just so everyone kind of knew their role and responsibility in the TCA policy and in asset. So those are the main changes, but most of the same content is there from. So if there's any questions, I'd gladly take them.
okay, any questions on that? Do you have a hand up, Doug? No? No? Okay. Ryan, would you like to move that resolution? I'll read the resolution here just so that you're comfortable with it, that the Council of Municipality of West Perth receives tangible capital asset policy update as information.
Yep, sure, I'll move that.
Okay, so Ryan is going to move that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Rose. Discussion, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Okay. Next item then is the CCTV grant, and Clerk Hobson's going to enlighten us on that one.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just an information report for council. So West Perth OPP, in partnership with Stratford Social Services, has applied for the CCTV grant. Essentially, that's to get some funding to install more surveillance equipment around the municipality, and largely just at the Stratford Social Services property next to the fire hall. The project, being a grant in nature, will just flow through the municipality's books, but there's no cost or financial commitment through us. It was a budgeted program through Stratford Social Services, which West Perth is I guess West Perth is a partnership in that, and we pay our contributions. So there's no change in any of that, and there will likely be just some minor costs contributed to staff time throughout the process, but just information update for council in case they see that in our books and wondering where that's coming from, because some good numbers there.
Okay, any questions for Clerk Hobson on that? If not, we do have a recommendation, and the recommendation is that Council for the Municipality of West Perth receives the CCTV grant information report. We have a mover and seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Harold. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. And the next one is, I believe, the clerks as well, parking bylaw updates.
Thank you. But CCTV is hard to say for some reason there. So we've got direction from council previously to review the parking bylaw and bring forward some changes to the fee structure and some other amendments to the bylaw. So we've included that in the report, some of the, I'd say, similar and communities around the area and what they're all doing. I've noted in the report that those that are in the same boat as us, when we reached out to them for comment on their rates, they all indicated that they need to update their own too. So perhaps we're just the start in a long line here, but in the report, we've outlined what we're recommending and some other minor changes to the bylaw. A lot of it is just largely housekeeping items. For example, just where the old fire hall was, you couldn't park across from it, but now where it is now, and the way the fire hall is designed, there's no issue with parking across the street from it because it's all one-way traffic for the trucks. And we've just added some additional clarity, language around accessibility, and obviously we have brought an update to the fees. And I'd say we're pretty well just aligning to South Huron. If there's any comments or questions about something in there, I'd be glad to answer them. And we are requesting all 3 readings tonight, but obviously council has the option to just give first and second, keep it on the floor in kind of a draft for some sober second thought, I guess, as they say. But yeah, I'll take any questions.
Okay, questions for Dan on that? Found the chart interesting as to what our rates are and what some of the other ones are. There's quite a range of fees, and I think we tended to be on the low side as a rule on most of them. If there's no further questions, do you have any questions, Ryan?
No, I'm good.
Okay, then the recommendation that we have is that, and I got one question, I guess, for Dan. So now we deal with this and then it goes to the province and we're looking at a bit of time before that one comes back and that we can actually charge it.
Yeah, so the bylaw will, if council did give all three readings tonight, the bylaw wouldn't take full force and effect until the minister or solicitor has approved the fine structure. Last time we did this was approximately 2 years ago and it took 8 months. That was through COVID, so maybe it's faster now, but
Okay.
I'd project 8 months.
Yep. Okay. No, that's a good estimate. Question, Alex?
Is there any reason the solicitor would project any changes?
I don't think so, based on the fees where really it's just a review process to make sure, you're not charging an exorbitant amount of fees for any one thing. I'd say, well, we're moving towards the middle or I guess even the higher end of the table there. We're well below what cities or anything would be charging for some of these fees. And then they vary. You'll notice, I guess, I don't know the best word for it, but parking in an accessible spot is quite a bit higher. Parking by a hydrant, things like that. There's certain severity, I guess, that flows with it. So I don't anticipate any issues.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, the recommendation that we have here is that the Council of Municipality of West Perth receives the parking bylaw updates information report. Moved by Councillor O'Donnell and seconded by Councillor Fournier, maybe? Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. All right, moving on, our CAO is for the time being fairly quiet. No report tonight. Brings us down to correspondence, and we do have a letter from Mitchell Mets Fastball Club for a fundraising event coming up, I believe, later on this month. And the recommendation is that the municipality of West Perth declares ISC Canada East World Qualifier Fastball Tournament held by Mitchell Mets Fastball Club on June 16th and 18th, 2023 to be of municipal significance and or community significance, and advise the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario that it has no objection to it taking place. And maybe what we'll do is get a mover and seconder, and then if anybody wants a further explanation of the event, we can have it at that time. But we have a mover and seconder for that. Counselor Phelps, Counselor Chessel. Anybody require any more information about this tournament? I think we've had it before, I believe. Yeah, yeah. Okay, if there's no questions, then all those in favor of the motion? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. Brings us down to bylaws, and we actually have 5 bylaws here. Bylaw 29 is a bylaw to repeal bylaw number 23, 2001. And some of these we may want to have a bit of discussion on, I guess I should say. It's a bylaw to exclude dogs from certain areas in Peterson Park and the Mitchell and District Arena and Community Center and the Lions Pavilion in the Mitchell Ward. So maybe we'll keep that one separate. I don't know if there's any comments on that particular one, and we can deal with that one right now, and then I'll go through the rest of them as we go on. So. Okay. Okay, all right, okay, well, we'll come back to it then and have a discussion later on. Bylaw number 30 is a bylaw to repeal obsolete and redundant bylaws. Bylaw 31 is a bylaw to consolidate, repeal, and replace bylaw 19, 2015, being a bylaw to regulate the parking or stopping of vehicles on highways within the municipality of West Perth. Zoning bylaw 283 is a bylaw to amend bylaw number 100, 1998, as amended for property described as lot 22, concession 9 of the Logan Ward, which we dealt with earlier this evening, I believe. And then zoning bylaw amendment 284 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 100, 1998, as amended for property described as part lot 5, concession 6 of the Fullerton Ward, municipality of West Perth. And that one we also dealt with earlier tonight. So we can do first and second reading, and then we can come back to the one about the bylaw 29 one if there's any discussion on that. So the recommendation is that the Council for the Municipality of West Perth gives first and second readings to bylaw 29, 30, 31, zoning bylaw amendment 283, zoning bylaw amendment 284, this 5th day of June 2023. And a mover and a seconder for that, Councillor Harold, and seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Let's, and you don't have bylaw 29 in there for third reading. So we can do the third reading on the other ones and then come back to 29 for a brief discussion if there is some, right?
Yeah, so we have on the floor for third reading tonight is bylaw 31, which is the parking bylaw. Council's comfortable to do that tonight. And then the other two are the zoning bylaws, which general practice, we wouldn't bring forward the bylaw immediately following a public meeting, but because there was no comments from the public, we see no issue in bringing that forward right now.
Okay,
Well,
all right. So moving on then, that we give third and final reading to bylaw 31, zoning bylaw 283, zoning bylaw 284, this 5th day of June. We have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Phelps, Councillor O'Donnell. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. So going back to bylaw 29, and I'm anticipating there might be some discussion with this one. And I could be wrong. I was wrong once before. So any discussion with regards to that one? Councillor Vink?
Mayor McKenzie, would you have a little bit of the history on how that bylaw came to be in 2001, or why it came to be in 2001?
It originally came into being, and it was affiliated with an event, and I think it was Cornfest, maybe, Doug, I believe. Yeah, and anyways, it involved a dog, and it attacked an individual at the ballpark, and it did a bit of damage to that individual that I think they spent some time in hospital. And at that point in time, the outcry was that should not allow dogs in the park. And there was quite an outcry at that time. And so that's where it initiated from. The flip side of that is, and Dan made me aware of this, like, we don't have any signs over there that say no dogs. And, you know, we could have it signed, and we could also have it that you could have dogs in certain areas of the park if you wished. Just maybe not in all areas or near, you know, where there would be a lot of people. So, you know, I open it up for your comments and discussion, what you'd like to do with that. Doug?
Funny, walking my dog the other day, I had a lady stop me and she was at the park when a child, wasn't an infant, but a child was bitten by a dog there. I'm gonna say it was 2 weeks ago by her timeline. During a ball, and I'll get this right out there, I'm a dog lover. I have 2 dogs, had 2 dogs. I got down to 1 and I've had 8 in my life. Most dogs are not trained to be in a situation where there's crowd and noise and commotion and kids running around. And most dogs, owners can't even get them to do the basic 7 obedience things: sit, lay down, do those things. And they bring them into the park. And then talking to someone today who was looking after the booth over there on the weekend, the handicap or the family washroom, they went in to clean it and someone's dog had defecated in there. And there was a continuous lineup of the owners taking their dogs into the family washroom. And there is a time and a place for dogs, and it's not in a big crowded area where there's lots of noise. And I think if we're going to move or get rid of this bylaw, we should make it known, have an open meeting and discussion, because obviously there's that 1% that we make rules for that does not know their dog should not be there. It's not only dogs and people, it's dogs and dogs. And I am a dog lover. I take my dog walks, but there are limits of places that they shouldn't be. And I don't think the ball diamond during tournaments and things like that is the place to be for the dogs. But that's my opinion.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Anybody else? Councillor or Deputy Mayor Trzaskowski?
No, thank you, your worship. So I guess my question is about the status of service dogs. How does that fit into what this bylaw is trying to address? How do we deal with service dogs that are needed by patrons of the park?
They would be allowed, even if the bylaw explicitly prohibited them. That clause would be ultra virus, and it just wouldn't have any teeth. Sorry. Thanks. Yeah, I think we would allow, we allow that, any service dog in our facilities or anything like that.
Just the Ontario Human Rights recognizes that service dog. Again, trained dogs that have been around numerous situations to be in those situations of people and crowds, and they're trained specifically for that, but most dogs are not. And again, I'm just saying that it just amazes me sometimes that the leash length, and some of them off leash just have no control over their dogs. So
Hey, Doug has made a point about possibly, you know, inviting the public back when we give it the 3rd reading. I'm just wondering, before we get that far on, if we should have some indication to help staff as to where, if you were going to ban dogs completely, or is there some areas there that you would allow dogs to come in and literally, you know, could go in there, but other areas they couldn't?
Walter,
Oh, Ryan, sure.
is it something where we could potentially allow dogs? I agree with what it's a very valid points. But I also don't want to see it if there's, you know, somebody living in a space where they maybe don't have a backyard or they can't play. And I know they can take them for walks, but if that's something they enjoy and bringing them to the park, is there a way that we can maybe say, yeah, we can remove this bylaw, but they have to be leashed at all times and, you know, kind of meet in the middle? And that would be my only comment.
Yeah, and that, good point. I think, Ryan, that can be part and parcel of the bylaw. When we get into the nuts and bolts of it, I would think that you would expect all your dogs to be on a leash if you're going to be in a public spot like that. I think we require that if you're walking your dog down a public sidewalk, that it's supposed to be on a leash at all times. I know. Counselor Rose?
Yeah, is there, walking their dog during a night like this is one thing, but if there's a function or something going on, could that be that it's posted no animals? You know, when there's a function, other than what Dean was speaking of.
Yeah, and I guess you'd have to fine tune it as to what you would call a function like that.
Well,
Just
like
a normal ball game
there's a,
or a ball tournament, you know?
definitely a ball tournament, and
yes.
that's something they would have to speak of.
Yeah.
If you have, so if you have one or two diamonds being used, say for ball games, somebody has their dog and one of the kids maybe just walking around. As Doug was saying, sometimes maybe it's not the animal's fault that they get excited.
That's right.
whatever.
They're in a situation they're
Yeah.
not used to. Councilor Harold.
Yeah, I think we'll have to narrow it down tight somehow, because even if there isn't a baseball game on, there could be 10 or 12 children playing in the playground, and the result is the same. So I don't think we can just narrow it down to the baseball diamond, or, you know, if there's basketball going on or something. We can't do it that way. We'll have to come up with a zone.
Ryan, you have a comment, I understand?
Yeah, I think maybe what's best for tonight is we just go towards setting up a public meeting or something where we can get some input from and feedback from the community. I just don't think it's something we should maybe address tonight without more of that from everybody.
Okay, you're breaking up a little bit, at least I think you are. I think before we want the public to come in, we want to kind of have something that concrete that we're looking at, and then we can always tweak it after we hear the input from the public. But Diane, you have a point?
I think we should not allow dogs out there. I actually witnessed that dog attack. It was a little child. He was walking to his mom on the bleachers, and the dog jumped up and lurched at him, nipped him once, nipped him twice. Third time he latched in. The kid did nothing.
That's the other comment, is that we don't allow dogs, period, over there. Phil and then Doug.
I just think during the weekend when you have your dog over there, how are you going to enforce it all the time, right? Like you see somebody walk through, who you calling? Are the police going to come and they get out of here, kind of thing, right? A lot of people don't recognize signs or walk past them as well.
If it's signed, Phil, you know, we may not have bylaw there, but if there's other people there and they're firm believers, they will remind you that you're not supposed to have an animal or a dog in there. It's hard, you know, on weekends especially, and you know, police and bylaw can't be everywhere all the time, but I think one of the main things that we're lacking there is signage right now. Doug, you had a comment too?
Just a point in the 2019 study for the park over there, one of the recommendations was no dogs allowed signage in 2019, and we're in 2023 and nothing's been addressed. Now we've had another dog bite. And as far as I'm concerned, we have a dog park. There's a whole town to walk. Why do they need to walk through Ketterson Park with their dog when there's function going on of any kind over there? There's still the skateboard park. There's a playground. Like there's just too much going on at Ketterson, and the same thing it'll be at Cooperfield. There's people cheering and screaming, and you know, there's commotion going on. And again, as you say, a dog will react. And again, it's not the dog's fault. It's the owner should have care and control, right? Rules, boundaries, limitations, and a lot of it just isn't happening. And why are they there? Like they said on the weekend, the ball tournament, there was a lineup for the private washroom and it was everybody wanted to use the private washroom because they had to take their dog in there. They didn't want to take them into the public washroom, or the family washroom. And it's like, is that what the family washroom's for, is to take your dog in? But
Okay. Oh, sorry, Murray.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I think we call it, created the dog park. Because when this was talked about eons ago, they said, well, if we had somewhere to go, well, now you do. And I totally agree with Doug. When there's people around there, there's too many things can happen too quick. It's hard enough looking after the people without animals.
Anybody else? Okay, from what I'm picking, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I think we're going to be on the same pages. I think staff appreciate all the input, and I think staff has some direction, some work before we bring it back for third and final, and leave it with us.
Yep, we'll leave it. I think the key thing, I think, is we need to get some signage over there. And what I'm picking up, from the comments tonight is, we talked about Peterson Park and the Mitchell District Arena and Community Center and the Lions Pavilion. And Doug also mentioned about Cooper Field. So I think you come back, you keep all those in mind, and I think signage is the big thing. But what I'm seeing is that we want to stay firm on the path that initially was brought in and go from there.
I'll just note for the record that either way, took a quick look again, and the bylaw, the 2001 bylaw, wouldn't have any exemptions or clarity around service dogs or anything. So either way, we're going to have to update and repeal this bylaw and just probably start fresh again. But
Okay, moving on then. We're down to upcoming events. On the 14th, which I believe is next Wednesday night, is a special council meeting. On the 15th is the full house tour. Have you got your numbers for that, Jeff?
I don't know the numbers, but our registration was pretty good, and registration is closing on Wednesday. So if you're still interested in going, you have until Wednesday to decide. I know the numbers are up around 50 or 60.
And you drive yourself. It's not a bus or anything, right?
No, you'll receive a package which will include a route, and will encourage you to get together and drive with whoever you would like to drive with and carpool. But yeah, you go out and do the tour yourself.
Okay, thank you. The next item, we need some volunteers for this particular one, I believe. The Dodge for Dads being hosted by MP John Nader at Upper Thames School. We're looking, suggested that we get a team from the deputy mayor. I don't know how many volunteers we have yet, but who's the spokesman for this? Hannah, are you looking after this one? You are? We are?
well, no, Hannah is, but Hannah was already on the ball here, and she's advised that Councillor Fournier and Deputy Mayor Trentowski have both confirmed so far. Let's see.
Hearing? Yes. So how many do we need altogether? Depends whether we have one team or two, right?
Six plus two alternates forms one team.
That's what I was looking for. So we need, basically need 8. So we're sitting at 1, 2. We have any staff that's participating? Okay. So we need a couple more volunteers from here. We should have at least half of council. Andrew and Dean, right, have volunteered?
Just one quick question.
Yeah.
What time is
7 p.m.
Okay, at Upper Thames. So we've got 3.
I can't be there for 7, but I let Hannah know I'd be there around 8 o'clock or so to participate.
Okay. You could be an alternate?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're sitting at, what's that, 4 then, if we count that? We're halfway there. Any more volunteers? Okay, well, we've got a little bit of time, but we definitely need 4 volunteers. You're volunteering, are you there?
I'll have to check. That is my
Your night off?
my daughter's 3rd birthday.
Oh,
so
well,
I will
gosh.
have to check with.
No, that's good. Okay, well, we'll keep working on it and maybe we can touch base with either Dan or Hannah. It's a little closer there. Okay, the music in the park, Doug, you're looking after that this year, I believe. Isn't that part of your heritage? Oh, okay, yeah. But it's being looked after. I've seen the ad on the sign downtown.
The emails have gone out and around. They've got the schedule done and they've actually, there was someone else came forward and was wondering about, I just emailed today about putting on another show in August, but I think I'll have to go to the committee just to look at the budget. So
Well, and I understand too that you're going to ask for donations this year.
yes,
So
There's-
that may help,
offset costs.
Offset
And there's
costs.
posters out. They've got the posters. So yeah, they're moving ahead.
When I say donations, like it's a free will offering.
It's a free will offering, yeah.
yeah.
The judge just passed the buck and taking
Yeah.
the buck around, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good, excellent. Okay, next meeting is the 19th of June. And then the Catterson Park Pavilion, the grand opening is on the 24th. Is that in conjunction with the tournament at all? Or just,
No, we were trying to have a couple of exhibition games, but they haven't been able to get commitments from teams, so they'll work out the format of that day. They were trying to make it more than just, a small gathering and a ribbon cutting. They were trying to actually have some activities, but the ball teams are all fairly booked up. So they're still working on that. I expect that it won't include exhibition games, but there'll be some other creative things brought to it. So they're working on it, but it'll be that day. And we have invited the MP and the MPP because of the significant amount of federal and provincial grant that's in that project. So we want to do an official opening acknowledgement.
maybe we can see how good we are at the dodgeball. Oh, but again. Yeah. Yeah, right, okay. All right, we do have a notice of motion here tonight. And the notice is that the Council Municipality of West Perth, and it says approve here, but I'm going to say we look at the installation of bleachers at Cooper Standard Field, the new ball diamond, in the amount of $3,000. That the treasurer be directed to use funds from the tax stabilization reserve fund for this project. And there's a little bit of history here. Ryan, do you want to, this is your motion, so do you want to give us the background on it?
Yeah, I can give a quick little synopsis. Basically, the field has been finished here. And the only thing keeping it ready for game ready is they don't have any bleachers for fans and parents, stuff to sit. So at our last Mitchell Minor Sports meeting, the Mitchell Minor Sports executive voted to donate $3,000, which was the cost of one bleacher. And then some of these, obviously one bleacher short. Now the municipality has put, and I can't remember the exact number, but about $30,000 into this field. But a field that can't be used for games is basically kind of similar to not having the field at all. So I would like to see this field get the bleacher required so games can start getting played on it. And I would like to put that as a motion.
Okay, all right. Questions before we get into this? Yes or no, Nicholas?
I didn't quite understand what Ryan said, that there aren't any bleachers right now when I counted 4 there. So I'm not quite following that I'm in the right spot.
Out by the aerial place, that's Cooper Field,
Yeah,
right?
and there are 4 bleachers there right now.
The new diamond by the dog park that's just been constructed.
Did you catch that, Ryan?
Yeah, I got it. I haven't been there in the last 4 or 5 days, but there definitely wasn't any bleachers there when I was at the dog park earlier last week.
Okay, other questions? Okay, so we've got this notice in motion. So we can deal with it tonight or we defer it until the next meeting.
Well, I would recommend you ask staff to report back on. I would anticipate that, and Darcy will be at the next meeting. Did you have a chance to talk to Darcy about the notice? Dan, or do you have more than just a report back to suggest?
No, I think it's gone through staff. Our treasurer identified which reserve. Obviously, you know, staff's concerned or it's a non-budgeted item. It is in effect a donation because it wouldn't be a West Perth asset. I think those are the big sticking points right now, but as Councillor Duck indicated, it's a donation that he feels strongly about. So I think it's before council. We can report back, but unless Wendy has anything else to add, I don't think we'd have too much more.
I would just like to add, sorry, Wendy, the longer we wait on this, obviously, the longer it's going to take to get the park open. We're now starting to get right into the heat of summer, and they can really use that diamond. It's been stressed a couple times at different meetings. So I would personally like to see a resolution, whether we decide to go with it or not tonight, if possible.
So just for my rationale to use the tax stabilization fund and not the recreation reserve was just because the recreation reserve in my mind is for replacement of our current asset structure. And since we're going through a review of our assets, the amount of money in that reserve, I don't believe covers the replacement of our current assets. And so that's why I picked the stabilization fund versus a asset management fund.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Okay, I'm kind of looking, I guess, to council here. Oh, Diane, go ahead. Sorry.
Could I get some clarification on this ballpark? Like, how big is it? Who plays there? Just some general information about the park in general, since it's brand new.
It's a brand new field at the Cooper Diamond. So it is a project that flows through our municipal books, I believe. It was already council had set a budget and approved said budget for the construction. This is going above and beyond that. As I said, it's a donation. It's a standard regulation hardball diamond. If you need more, I'm happy to bring it back. I wasn't trying to avoid that. Just
Does it have like the mound on it, like the other diamond? Like, is it just a replica of the other diamond we already have?
I'm not sure if it has a mound, but if it's a hardball, I imagine it does. But it's fenced. It's got the full fences up and everything else is up. And as Councillor Duck indicated, it's just missing bleachers. Seeing as it's being identified for game use, I'd suspect it'd have the mound. But
Yeah, to piggyback off Dan there real quick, sorry, Walter. They are using it now for practices. The field and everything else is ready to go. It's just they can't hold games there because there's nowhere for parents and family to sit. So they have been able to use it for Mitchell Minor baseball for practices, but just not games. And obviously, it being a nice new field, they would like to get it going as soon as possible.
Councillor Harold.
Yeah, just a couple of things. First, if they wanted to play a game, they probably could. I'm sure they're not using it because there aren't bleachers, but there aren't bleachers at soccer fields and places like that, and they're able to make it work. So I don't think that's holding anybody back. Not that I'm against bleachers. So the question is about the $3,000. Are we spending $3,000 per set of bleachers, or does a set of bleachers cost $3,000? Like, where does the $3,000 figure come from? Is that a quote? Is that an estimate? Or are we just going to spend whatever amount of money we have and that's what we'll get for bleachers, or what's the deal there?
The 3,000 was a quote that Minor Sports received when they were going at doing this. So they've already donated the one side. It's the other side they're looking for. So it was per set of bleachers that Mitchell Minor Sports had got quoted. I'm not sure exactly who the quote was from.
I'll just try and fill the voids in, but I think perhaps if the questions are there, we can report back to council that it's a donation or essentially a sponsorship of, if you will, for the bleachers to the Cooper Field.
Deputy Mayor Pinkowski.
Thanks, Your Worship. I guess through you further to Councillor Harold's comments, I was going to request that a staff report come back outlining the procurement plan, and then also with a cost estimate, not only for the purchase, but then the installation and any other accessories involved. And then also a work plan that would outline the potential start date and completion date of the work. And I guess while I'm thinking about that, I don't know if there's an AED installed at that site or not, but maybe that should be added into consideration as well, being as the original diamond plus the new diamond are already in use, and the dog park is right there as well.
Councillor Foster.
Do we own do we own out at Cooper Field? Or who owns Cooper Field?
So I just want to clarify that. So the municipality owns the land, and if the assets are going to run through our books, if purchasing is going to run through our books, then the assets belong to the municipality, but we have an organization, a partner that is running it. So I would really prefer if we had the opportunity to bring this back as a staff report. The other thing I'm struggling with is we just went through our donations process, and we have a process to request donations. We made a donation to Minor Sports. We made other donations, and this one wasn't in the list, and it's a big one to add after the budget's approved, but it perhaps is a valid one. It's just a matter of, I'd like to get some input from staff to bring a report back, and I apologize that that'll be a 2-week wait, but the donation's coming in June already, so the season started.
Councillor Foster again.
Why was it called a donation, not an asset then if we own it?
I believe they're asking for the money to add an extra bleacher. And I'm not sure if the nuance on what is an asset of ours, and perhaps Wendy, you've done work on this. We have to do work on an agreement with Ketterson, and you know, but I think the thing I can definitively tell you is the land is owned by the municipality. And I think technically in the long run, we're responsible for those assets, but how we're handling that asset in the meantime, if you've done research on it and can enlighten us, Wendy, then go ahead.
I think Doug Wolf made a presentation at the end of the summer to bring a budget request in for 30,000 donation. And so the park itself costs more than 30,000, but the municipality is giving a $30,000 donation for the park. And without the agreement, it's very gray on the assets. Typically, if they're buying them, technically they're theirs, but it's on our property, so it's very gray. And unless we have it documented in an agreement and how it handled, makes it hard. But if the group were to default and it's on our property, then definitely it's our asset. So it's not very clear answer, I'm sorry. But as we get these agreements kind of written, that definition will get clearer.
And to piggyback off Jeff's comments, this wasn't a donation request from Mitchell Minor Sports. This was a topic of discussion we had at a Mitchell Minor Sports meeting, the board I sit on. And this was a problem that we had discussed. And this wasn't something that they asked me to bring to you. This is a notice of motion that I put on my own regard. So just for clarity for everyone, this was not a donation request for Mitchell Minor Sports. This is just something that I would like to see get done in the community. And that's what I've asked for, not anyone else.
Okay.
And so we'll bring back a staff report, and I think we just need to bring in also the contribution that was made by the municipality in the fall, which went through, and I just want to emphasize that that contribution was put through the municipality of West Perth books because it was an asset, that diamond was an asset being added to West Perth property. And that therefore made it eligible for an HST exemption. And it made sense to put it through the books, but that also comes with the consequence that the asset is the municipality's asset ultimately. These are minor nuances, but we really have to get agreements in place. So there's clarity. We've made a long-term commitment to that site as a recreation site. We spent a considerable amount of time dealing with communications that it was designated industrial and the municipality was intending to sell it, which wasn't the case. But that rumor got out there, so we had to clarify that we're committed to that as a recreation site. There's lots of sweat equity in it, but the who owns those assets specifically needs to be pinned down in an agreement.
Okay, the feeling that I'm getting here in the comments that have been said is that at this time, I think we leave it and we have staff come back, and I don't know if we need a motion for direction for staff, but I think we're looking for input to come back in a report from staff and probably have it at our next meeting and go from there. So direction.
Actually, I would suggest that it would be appropriate for council to respond to the notice of motion with a notice directing staff.
Okay, we can do that then. Just a motion that we direct staff to come back at hopefully, I would say the next meeting rather than a future meeting, the next meeting with directions with regards to bleachers at the new ballpark at Cooper Field. That sound good on the 14th? Yeah, we can do it by then or not? The 19th? Yeah, okay.
Come back to the 19th meeting, which is our next regular meeting of council.
Yeah. Is everybody okay? That Dean, you want to move that?
Yeah, also move.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Phelps. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor of coming back with a report? Opposed, if any? Ryan, are you opposed?
Yeah, I'm opposed to that.
That's okay. It doesn't matter. Carried.
All good.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other business at this time? Oh, there is? Oh, so there is. Yes, Councillor Phelps. Sorry, I missed that. So Doug has also noticed the motion that directs staff to investigate the possibility of permitting seasonal camping at Keterson Park. So Doug, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I've had requests from ball teams in specific. There's nowhere to stay in Mitchell. They've had the fastball tournaments up there and teams end up staying in Waterloo and Kitchener because Stratford's booked up because of the festival. We have a dumping station over there. We have property. There is camping during fair weekend by the Pioneer Hobby Association, but there's no utility hookups. It's a possibility that there's an opportunity to look at it. And of course it comes with rules and addressing noise and other things, dogs and other things in that trailer park. No fire's been conversations with the insurance company on what it's going to be as far as liability because it changes the use of the park a little bit. But I think there is a need for just some, I guess, temporary weekend housing to house some of these events that go on. And I'm kind of being selfish, but homecoming is the same thing, that we'll be looking for places for people that, you know, if we have some spots to stay. So I was just wondering if staff could investigate that and make it, it would be under municipal Parks and Rec and go from there.
So something similar, Doug, then you would like staff to kind of look into it and then come back. So a motion maybe to direct staff to come back with a report.
I'd just like to make a motion, the staff direct them to come back with a report on the possibility of weekend seasonal camping at the park, Keterson Park.
Yep. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Doug. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Rose. Any further discussion? Counselor Harold?
Yeah, you might want to just leave the word seasonal out of there. Is in the camping world, seasonal it typically means like the 1st of May till Thanksgiving. And if you're looking for occasional or special permits, then you should word it a little better or differently. That's all, not better, differently.
Yep, okay, I think staff heard you. Anybody else? Okay, we're ready for the motion then.
Just the friendly amendment to the motion then is that we remove the word seasonal, as long as the mover and seconder are fine with that.
The only reason I put seasonal in is particularly the insurance company was not interested in year round. And that was the verbiage that they used was seasonal. We can set the dates of when that park operates, but seasonal means it is not a full year round park.
Okay, so,
I would, I think that the clarity around seasonal does have a meaning in our language. So I think we know what you mean when you're saying it's special event driven, but I would recommend you just remove the word seasonal from the recommendation for the purposes of narrowing the scope for staff.
okay, you moved that, right, Doug? And the seconder was Maria. You okay with that change? Okay, anybody else? Any comments on that? Okay, all those in favor of that motion? Opposed, if any? Okay, that's carried. Good, thank you. All right, now we're down to other business. Does anybody have anything this time? All right, we do have a closed session. So the recommendation is that the municipality of West Perth proceed into closed session at 8:19 for the purpose of addressing matters related to position plan, procedure, criteria, and instructions to be applied to negotiations or on behalf of the municipality, and educating and training the members of development charges in the and treasurer's report. So we have a mover and seconder that we proceed into closed session. Councillor Foster and Deputy Mayor Jankowski. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, we are in closed session. Wendy, you're going to stay, of course. Well, yeah, we're going to do it in this room. So Ryan, you're going to stay on, right? Have we lost him?
Sorry, I was having trouble getting my microphone on there. Yeah, I'll be here.
Good, okay. So council will receive training on development charges and treasurer reporting and discussed various boulevard maintenance. Recommendation that, we need a mover and seconder for this recommendation, I believe, that council directs the operations manager to review the current condition of Nelson Street reconstruction project, boulevard restoration, specifically the condition of the topsoil and grass seeding, and review the project construction contract and provide a report to council on options to address the concerns raised by residents and options for ongoing care and maintenance of the grass restoration. We have a move.
I'll move that, Walter.
Okay, moved by Ryan. And do we have a seconder, Doug? Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that is carried. Thank you. I forgot about you out there, Ryan.
I'm still here and I'm having fun.
Okay. So the next item then is the confirmatory bylaw, and the recommendation is that bylaw 32, 2023 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council and the corporation of municipality of West Perth be read a first and second time this 5th day of June 2023. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? That is carried. And the second recommendation is the bylaw 32, 2023 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the corporation of the municipality of West Perth be read a third time and finally passed this 5th day of June. And moved by Councillor O'Donnell, seconded by Councillor Phelps. All those in favor? That is carried. And finally, a motion to adjourn that West Perth, the municipality of West Perth Council adjourn the council meeting at 10:22 p.m. and moved by Councillor Vink, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kinkowski. All those in favor?